The spaceport on Aurelia 9 had seen many strange things: pirates, smugglers, travelers from 100 worlds, but no one expected a refugee ship to crash just outside the colony walls. Smoke rose in thick clouds, black and angry as alarm sirens echoed across the dusty streets. People gathered at a distance, staring at the wreck, whispering among themselves. Nobody moved closer. They had heard the rumors. That ship came from the warfront. The girl inside it might be marked, hunted, or worse, part of a fallen royal bloodline. Helping her could bring trouble, even death. So they watched from behind closed windows, afraid of getting involved. But one old man walked toward the wreck. His name was Bram. He was a retired mechanic, known for fixing broken machines and telling stories no one cared to hear anymore. He walked with a limp and carried a metal toolbox in one hand. His coat was worn, his beard untrimmed, and his eyes carried a quiet fire that hadn't died with age. He stepped into the smoke, coughing slightly, and found the girl lying among the debris. She wasn't much older than a teenager, though her alien features made it hard to tell for sure. Her skin was a soft gray-blue, marked by dark veins and thin silver lines. She had long white hair tangled with dust and ash. Her eyes were half open, filled with fear and pain. Both her legs were crushed beneath part of the ship's wall. She looked at Bram and tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Bram knelt beside her and checked her pulse. She was alive, but barely. He didn't ask questions. He didn't care what species she was or who she had been before. What he saw was someone broken, someone alone, someone left to die while others watched. "I've got you," he said softly. With slow and careful hands, Bram cleared the debris off her legs. Her body shook from pain, but she didn't scream. She was too weak for that. Bram took off his coat and wrapped it around her. Then he activated his emergency beacon and pulled out a collapsible hover stretcher from his pack. "No hospitals," the girl whispered suddenly. Her voice was faint but clear enough. Her eyes were wide, scared. "They'll find me." Bram looked at her, then at the sky where small patrol drones were already circling. He nodded slowly. "All right, no hospitals. Just me." He took her back to his small workshop on the edge of the colony, far from the busy areas. The walls were lined with spare parts, old tools, and dusty memories. It wasn't much, but it was safe. He placed her on the cot, cleaned her wounds, and gave her a mild pain reliever. Hours passed before she spoke again. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said. "Yeah," Bram replied with a shrug. "People say that a lot about me." She looked at him, confused. "You don't even know who I am." "I don't need to," Bram replied as he adjusted the bandages on her leg. "You're someone who needed help. That's enough." The girl blinked, surprised. For a moment she said nothing. Then she finally whispered her name. "Zira." "All right, Zira," Bram said. "I'm Bram, and we're gonna fix you up." She gave a weak smile before sleep took her. Outside, the colony buzzed with quiet fear. People gossiped about the old man taking someone from the wreck. The shopkeeper warned her customers not to go near him. A few sent anonymous messages to the local security force, but Bram didn't care. He stayed inside, working quietly. He built a simple hover sled from scrap parts so Zira could move around without using her legs. He reinforced it with soft padding and even added a small console she could control with her fingers. When she woke up the next day and saw it, her mouth fell open. "For me?" Bram nodded. "You need to move. I figured you'd want some independence." Zira touched the edge of the sled. Her fingers trembled. "Why are you doing this?" Bram paused. Then said, "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind." He didn't explain more, and Zira didn't ask. As the days passed, she began to heal slowly. She learned to use the hover sled and explored the workshop. She helped Bram sort wires, tighten bolts, and even taught him a few things about alien tech. Despite the pain and danger, there was laughter, quiet, but real. But trouble was coming. Security drones began flying lower. A patrol came to the door one morning, asking Bram if he had seen anything unusual. He shook his head and sent them away with a calm smile. But Zira saw his hands shaking after they left. Bram didn't sleep that night. He worked on an old shuttle buried beneath tarp and dust in the back of the garage. Zero watched him silently. Her heart heavy. She knew this couldn't last. And so did Brem, but for now they had each other. An old human, a crippled alien girl. Both forgotten by the world, but not by each other. The morning sun rose slowly over the quiet colony of Aurelianine. Inside his small workshop, Bram worked carefully on the old shuttle's engine. The metal was rusty, and many parts were missing or broken, but he had always loved fixing things that others had given up on. Just like Zira sat in her hover sled near the workbench, watching Bram with curious eyes. She still felt pain in her legs, but the sled made her feel a little free again. She wanted to move and do things on her own, but the fear inside her was strong. "Do you think they will come for me?" she asked softly. Bram wiped his hands on a rag and looked at her. "I don't know, but if they do, I'll stand in front of them." "Nobody messes with my friends." Zira looked at him, surprised. "Friends?" "Yeah," Bram smiled. "You're my friend now." The words made her heart warm. For the first time since the crash, she felt like she belonged somewhere. But the colony was not kind. Word had spread about the strange girl hiding with the old man. Some people were curious, but most were scared. They whispered about spies, about royal bloodlines, about old wars that should have ended long ago. One afternoon, while Bram was fixing a broken console, a knock came at the door. He opened it slowly, to find two security officers standing outside. They wore gray uniforms with the colony's emblem on their shoulders. Their faces were serious. "Mr. Bram," one said, "we have reports of a fugitive alien in this area. Have you seen anyone?" Bram shook his head calmly. "No, just me and my old machines." The officers looked around the workshop but saw nothing unusual. "You wouldn't be hiding anyone, would you?" "No," Bram said firmly. "If I did, would I tell you?" The officers exchanged glances but left without another word. Inside, Bram closed the door and sighed deeply. Zira, who had heard everything, moved closer. "Why did you lie?" Bram smiled sadly. "Because I can't let them take you." "Not after everything. But if they find out ... They won't, not while I'm here." For days, Bram kept a low profile. He made sure the shutters were closed and the security cameras were covered. He checked on Zira constantly, making sure she was safe and fed. Zira tried to help. She cleaned tools, organized parts, and even learned to solder wires. But the fear was always there, like a shadow. One night she asked Bram quietly, "Why do you risk so much for me? You don't even know me." Bram sat beside her and looked into her tired eyes. "I know what it feels like to be alone, to be broken," he said softly. "I lost my family in a war a long time ago. People walked away from me when I needed them most. But I never stopped helping others. It's what keeps me alive." Zira reached out and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Bram smiled and squeezed her hand gently. But outside, danger was growing. The patrol drones flew lower every day, scanning the colony. Neighbors who once nodded politely now avoided Bram's shop. Some even spread rumors that the old man was hiding a dangerous secret. One evening, a group of rough men came to the workshop. They were not officers, but mercenaries hired by unknown forces. "We hear you got a guest," their leader said with a sneer. "We want to see her." Bram stood in front of the door, holding a heavy wrench. "You're not welcome here." The leader laughed. "We have orders, hand her over or face the consequences." Bram's eyes burned with quiet anger. "Not a chance." The men looked at each other and stepped forward, but Bram was ready. He swung the wrench and managed to scare them off before they caused damage. After they left, Bram locked the doors tight and checked on Zira. "You scared?" She shook her head. "Not if you're here," Bram smiled. "Good, because this is far from over." The next day, Bram worked harder on the shuttle. He knew they couldn't stay forever. The old ship was their only chance to escape. Zira watched him closely. "I want to help," she said. Bram nodded. "You will." "You already have." He showed her how to operate some of the shuttle's controls. Even with her injuries, she was smart and quick to learn. But as they prepared, Zira's mind wandered to her home, the peaceful world she lost, the family she left behind, and the war that crushed everything. "I never wanted to run," she said quietly, "I wanted to fight." Bram looked at her, respect shining in his eyes. "Maybe one day you will. But first you need to live." That night they sat together in silence. Outside, the colony slept, but the shadows whispered of coming storms. Two lost souls, an old human and a crippled alien girl, had found hope in each other. But the galaxy was watching, waiting, and ready to strike. The days passed slowly in. Bram's workshop. The small place filled with soft light from the dusty windows. Outside, the colony carried on with its quiet life, but inside, Bram and Zira shared stories and worked together. Each day, Zira grew stronger and Bram grew more determined. One afternoon, as Bram tightened a loose panel on the shuttle, Zira's eyes grew distant. She sat quietly, fingers tracing the patterns on her arm, a strange mark that glowed faintly in the dim light. "Tell me about your world," Bram said gently, noticing her silence. Zira looked up, her silver eyes filled with memories. "It was peaceful once, a place where music and colors filled the sky. My people believed in kindness, and we lived in harmony with nature." She paused, swallowing hard. "But war came. A great empire wanted to take everything. They burned my home, my city, everything I loved." Bram listened closely, his heart heavy. "I tried to protect my people," she said, voice trembling. "When they attacked, I fought back, but they were too strong. I was captured. My legs were broken during the fight." Tears rolled down her cheek, but she wiped them away quickly. "I escaped during the chaos. I ran until I could run no more. Then I found myself here with you." Bram reached out and took her hand, steady and warm. "You're brave," he said quietly. Zira managed a small smile. "I don't feel brave, just tired." Bram nodded. "Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who keep going even when they're tired." She looked at him with new hope. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Bram smiled softly. "Because no one should be left alone. Especially not someone who's been through what you have." Zira's eyes grew wide. "You don't fear the Empire? The ones who want to find me?" Bram shook his head. "I've faced many dangers in my life. Lost many friends and family to wars. I learned that fear only makes people weak. But kindness, kindness makes us stronger." Zira's heart warmed at his words. She realized this old human was different. He did not judge her by her past or her species. He saw only a soul that needed help. As the sun set outside, they sat by the small fire Bram had made. The room was filled with the soft crackling of flames and quiet breathing. "I want to fight back," Zira said suddenly. "I want to help others who suffer like I did." Bram looked at her, surprised but proud. "That's a good heart," he said. "But first you need to heal. Then, when the time is right, you'll find your place." She nodded, but inside she felt the fire of hope starting to burn again. The next day, Bram continued working on the shuttle. He showed Zira how to operate more controls and how to communicate with distant places. She was quick to learn, absorbing everything like a sponge, but their peace was fragile. One morning, a loud knock shook the workshop door. Bram opened it slowly to find a young woman standing there. She wore a uniform with the symbol of the human security forces. "Mr. Bram," she said in a firm voice, "we have orders to search this area. Have you seen any unauthorized visitors?" Bram glanced at Zira, who hid behind a workbench, then back at the officer. "No, ma'am," Bram said calmly. "Just me and my tools." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Mind if I take a look around?" Bram shook his head but stayed close as she walked through the workshop. The officer examined every corner, every shelf. Zira held her breath. After a tense moment, the officer said, "Nothing suspicious here." She turned to Bram. "But if you see anything unusual, report it immediately." Bram nodded. The officer left with a final glance behind her. When the door closed, Zira let out a slow breath. "That was close," Bram said. Zira looked at him, eyes shining with trust. "They're searching for you," she said softly. "I know," Bram replied, "but I won't give up on you. We'll find a way." That night, Bram sat alone outside, staring at the stars. Memories of his past wars and losses filled his mind. But with Zira, he felt a new purpose, something he had lost long ago. Back inside, Zira rested on the hover sled. She thought about her home, her lost family, and the future. For the first time, she dreamed of freedom. She whispered to the night, "Thank you, Bram." Tomorrow they would face new challenges. But together they had hope. The sun barely touched the horizon when Bram and Zira stood beside the old shuttle, hidden beneath a heavy tarp in the back of the workshop. The air was cool and still, filled with the soft sounds of the colony settling down for the night. Bram wiped his hands on a rag, eyes fixed on the shuttle's worn surface. The ship looked fragile and old, but it was their only hope. "We need to leave soon," Bram said quietly. "The patrols are getting closer every day. If they find you here, it won't end well." Zira nodded, her silver eyes filled with both fear and determination. "Where will we go?" "There's a human-controlled zone on the far side of this system," Bram replied. "My old friend there can help us. They don't care about your past, only that you're safe." Zira's lips pressed together. "It sounds far. It is, but I've made a few repairs. The shuttle should hold up." Bram reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. "This will help us avoid most patrols," he said, pressing a button. A soft map lit up, showing their path through hidden asteroid fields and quiet space lanes. Zira studied the map carefully. "You planned this?" Bram chuckled softly. "When you live as long as I have, you learn a thing or two." For hours, they worked together, checking engines, fixing wires, and loading supplies. Zira helped as much as her strength allowed, her mind sharp despite her tired body. As night deepened, Bram turned to her. "Rest now. Tomorrow will be hard." Zira smiled weakly. "Will you come with me?" Bram placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "I'm coming. We're in this together." The next morning, the colony buzzed with normal activity, but Bram and Zira felt the weight of what was to come. They moved quietly, avoiding neighbors and patrols. At last, the moment arrived. Bram activated the shuttle systems. Lights flickered on inside the cockpit. Zira climbed onto her hover sled and rolled beside the ship. "Ready?" Bram asked. Zira nodded. They climbed inside. Sealing the hatch behind them, Bram took the pilot's seat, hands steady on the controls. Zira watched the outside world fade as the shuttle powered up. With a soft hum, the ship lifted from its hiding place and rose into the sky. Below them, the colony shrank, a small dot in the vast world. Suddenly, alarms blared inside the shuttle. Bram frowned. "Patrol drones." The radar showed several fast ships closing in. "Hold tight," Bram said. He pushed the throttle forward, steering the shuttle through the asteroid field marked on the map. Rocks and debris blurred past as they twisted and turned. Zira gripped her sled's armrests. Heart pounding, the patrol ships fired warning shots, but Bram expertly dodged each one. "We're almost clear," he said, eyes focused. Just then a warning light flashed red. "Engine overheating," Bram exclaimed. The shuttle shook violently. Zira's voice was calm but strong. "You can do this, Bram." He smiled, grateful for her faith. With great effort, he slowed the engine strain and found a safe path out of the field. The patrol ship stopped chasing, unable to follow the tricky route. Breathing heavily, Bram looked at Zira. "We made it." Zira smiled wide, tears of relief shining in her eyes. But their journey was only beginning. For hours, they traveled through empty space, avoiding patrol routes and communication signals. Bram shared stories of the stars, and Zira imagined the new life waiting for her. Yet, danger still loomed. Suddenly, the shuttle's sensors picked up a small vessel approaching fast. Bram's brow furrowed. "We have company." The ship was unmarked, but its speed was too fast to be friendly. Zira felt a cold shiver. Bram grabbed a control lever and activated the shuttle's stealth mode. The ship's lights dimmed, and their signal vanished from scanners. "Let's hope they don't see us," Bram said quietly. The unknown ship slowed and passed by without noticing. Zira exhaled deeply. "I'm scared," she admitted. Bram nodded. "That's normal, but remember, fear doesn't control us." Together they watched the stars glide by, knowing the road ahead would be tough. But Bram's skill and Zira's courage gave them hope. For now they were free. The shuttle floated silently through the dark space, its engines humming softly. Bram and Zira had been flying for days, following hidden routes and avoiding patrols. The stars outside seemed calm, but danger was closer than they thought. Inside the ship, Zira practiced using the controls. She was learning fast despite the pain in her legs. Bram watched her with pride. "You're doing great," he said. "Soon you'll be able to fly this ship alone." Zira smiled, feeling stronger with every passing hour. She was no longer the helpless girl who crashed on. Aurelia 9, she was becoming a pilot and a survivor, but danger waited in the shadows, back on Aurelia 9. The news of Bram's secret guest had spread faster than anyone expected. The neighbors, who once avoided him, began whispering to the local security forces. Fear and suspicion grew like wildfire. One of Bram's neighbors, a man named Garen, saw the shuttle leave. His eyes narrowed. He knew Bram was hiding something. Afraid and angry, Garen went to the colony's security chief and told him everything he suspected. "They're hiding an alien fugitive," Garen said. "She's dangerous and the old man is helping her. We need to act before it's too late." The security chief nodded grimly. Orders were given. A small squad of soldiers would search the colo. NY for Bram and the girl. Meanwhile, aboard the shuttle, Bram checked the communications console. Suddenly, an alert flashed. "Read incoming message," Bram said, his voice tense. He opened the message, and a cold chill ran down his spine. It was a warning from someone he once trusted. "Bram, they're coming for you. Get ready." Zira looked at him, eyes wide. "Who sent it?" Bram shook his head. "Someone I hoped would never turn against me." He quickly prepared the ship's defenses. "We need to move fast." Outside, the patrol ships closed in quickly. The soldiers had tracked the shuttle's path through the asteroid fields and now surrounded them. Bram took the pilot's seat and pushed the controls to full power. The shuttle shook as it sped through the stars. "We have to break through," Bram said. "Hold on." Zira gripped her sled tightly as the shuttle weaved through enemy fire. Lasers flashed past and alarms blared inside the cabin. Bram's hands moved with skill born from years of experience. He dodged, spun, and climbed higher into the safety of a nearby nebula. The patrol ships hesitated at the edge of the glowing gas clouds. They could not follow without risking damage. Breathing hard, Bram looked at Zira. "We lost them for now." Zira smiled weakly. "That was close." But Bram knew it was not over. "We need to find a safe place to land and regroup." Hours later, they found an abandoned space station hidden in the nebula. The station was old and damaged, but it had a working landing pad. Bram guided the shuttle down carefully and shut off the engines. Inside the quiet station, they took a moment to rest. Zir looked at Bram. "Why would someone betray you?" Bram sighed. "Fear makes people do strange things. They see you as a threat, even though you're not. And some people only care about power, not kindness." Zira touched his arm gently. "I'm glad you didn't give up on me." Bram smiled softly. "Neither did you." They both knew their journey was far from over. As they explored the station, Bram found old supplies and tools. He began repairing the shuttle, hoping it would be ready for the next leg of their trip. Zira practiced using the station's controls, learning everything she could. One night as they rested, Zira spoke quietly. "Bram, what will happen if they catch us?" Bram looked at her with calm eyes. "We'll fight together." Zira nodded, feeling stronger than ever. Outside the station's windows, stars shimmered in the nebula's glow. Two unlikely friends, bound by trust and courage, prepared to face the dangers ahead. The old space station was quiet now, but tension filled the air. Bram and Zira knew their time was running out. The patrol ships had not given up. They were coming for them again. Bram worked fast, fixing the shuttle's damaged systems. Every bolt, every wire mattered. Zira helped where she could, steady and focused. The old man's hands shook sometimes, but he never stopped. "We have to be ready," Bram said. "The next fight will decide everything." Zira looked at him, her eyes bright with courage. "I'm not afraid," Bram smiled. "Good, you should never be afraid." The stars outside the station glowed softly. The nebula's colors shimmered through the windows. But the beauty could not hide the danger. Suddenly, alarms blared through the station. Bright red lights flashed. "Patrol ships incoming!" A voice announced. Bram grabbed the controls. "They found us." Zira's heart raced, but she stayed calm. She prepared the defense systems and checked the shuttle's readiness. The station shook as the patrol ships fired their weapons. Explosions rocked the walls and sparks flew from damaged consoles. Bram shouted over the noise, "We need to hold them off until the shuttle is ready." Zira activated the station's energy shields, creating a barrier against the enemy fire. The shields flickered but held strong. The patrol soldiers began boarding the station through emergency airlocks. Bram and Zira prepared for the fight. Bram grabbed a heavy tool and stood near the main corridor. Zira rolled her sled beside him, ready to move. The first soldiers appeared, surprised by the resistance. Bram swung his tool, knocking one away. Zira used quick moves to avoid attacks, helping Bram where she could. They worked together like a well-oiled machine. Bram's strength and experience, Zira's speed and determination. Each moment was a struggle, but they fought with all their might. More soldiers came, but Bram shouted, "Keep them back! Don't let them near the shuttle!" Zira saw a soldier aiming at the shuttle's controls. She moved quickly, blocking the shot with her sled. The bullet hit the metal frame, saving the ship. Bram nodded with approval. "Good job!" Despite the fight, the shuttle was almost ready. Bram climbed inside, starting the engine checks. Zira covered him, fighting off attackers. Suddenly, a blast hit Bram's shoulder. He stumbled but did not fall. "Bram!" Zira called, rushing to him. He shook his head, pain in his eyes. "Keep going." "I'll hold them." Zira hesitated, then nodded. She climbed into the shuttle, her hands shaking but steady. Bram stayed behind, blocking the path as more soldiers advanced. Inside the shuttle, Zira started the engines. The alarms warned her of danger, but she ignored them. "Bram, get in." She shouted through the cum, but there was no answer. Tears filled her eyes. She pushed the throttle forward, lifting the shuttle off the station. Outside, the battle raged on. Zira flew through the debris, her heart heavy but her mind focused. She navigated through the asteroid fields, using every skill Bram had taught her. Behind her, the patrol ships chased, but she was faster. Suddenly, she saw a bright flash. Bram's shuttle, a second ship, appeared beside hers. Bram was alive, piloting it with strength despite his wound. Together, they flew through the stars, leaving the danger behind. After hours of travel, they reached the human sanctuary. The gates opened wide, welcoming them in. Zira felt hope rise inside her. They were safe for now. Bram was taken to healers, his wound treated carefully. Zira stayed by his side, grateful he had survived. The sanctuary was a place of peace. People from many worlds lived there, helping each other rebuild. Zira was fitted with advanced prosthetics, and for the first time she stood on her own legs. She smiled, tears flowing freely. Bram watched her, proud and happy. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it," she replied. Together they faced the future stronger, braver, and ready for whatever came next. The bright lights of the human sanctuary cast soft glows on the walls as Zira walked steadily through the halls. Her new legs felt strange at first, but with each step she grew stronger and more confident. The advanced prosthetics gave her a new chance at life, one she never thought possible. Bram sat nearby, watching her with tired but happy eyes. His wound had healed, and though he was still weak, his spirit was strong. He had saved her life and given her hope when no one else would. One morning, the sanctuary's leaders gathered in the main hall. Zira and Bram were invited to speak. The room was filled with many people, humans and aliens alike, who had heard their story. Zira took a deep breath as she stepped to the front. Her voice was clear but gentle. "I am Zira," she began. "I was once broken and alone. My home was taken from me by war, and I thought I would never walk again. But thanks to Bram, an old human, I found help, hope, and a new future." She looked at Bram, who nodded encouragingly. "People said no one dared to help me. They were afraid, but Bram did not. He risked everything for me." The crowd listened quietly, some with tears in their eyes, We must not be afraid of those who are different, Zira continued. We must stand together and help each other even when it is hard. Bram then spoke, his voice steady. Kindness is a power stronger than any weapon. We may come from different worlds, but we share the same hope for peace, for friendship, and for a better tomorrow. After their speech, the crowd erupted in applause. Many came forward to thank them, offering help and friendship. Zira felt a warmth in her heart. She knew their story would inspire others. In the days that followed, the sanctuary began to change. More refugees arrived, and the people learned to work together. The old fear and suspicion slowly faded. Zira and Bram traveled to nearby worlds, sharing their story and teaching others about courage and kindness. They helped build safe places for those in need. One evening, as they watched the stars from the sanctuary's balcony, Zira turned to Bram. Do you think people will remember us? Bram smiled. They will remember what we did, the choice. To help, to fight, and to never give up. Zira nodded. I want to keep fighting for those who cannot. You will, Bram said, because you have the heart of a warrior and the spirit of hope. The two friends stood side by side, looking out at the endless sky. The stars shone bright, a promise of new beginnings. No longer broken or alone, Zira was ready to face the future with Bram by her side. Their story was not just about survival. It was about the power of one old human's kindness and the courage of a crippled alien girl who dared to dream. Together, they had changed not only their lives, but the lives of many across the stars, and their legacy would live on forever.